Hi everyone, welcome to our channel. So in this video, we are going to create a complete CRUD sample on Vue3 Composition API using Bootstrap 5 and JSON Server as a fake backend. So Vue3 is one of the famous single page application. So it contains components. Okay, the component is nothing but smallest unit of code or a piece of code. So to create a component, we should have script, template, and style elements. Okay, inside of the script, we are going to write our normal JavaScript code using Vue.js default functions. Okay, and template, we are going to add HTML content, and style tag, we are going to add CSS content. Okay, that is simple overview on Vue component. So go to vue.js.org is the official website, and go for guide and go for quick start. Here you can find a command to install the command to create the Vue application. Okay, so to use this npm command, make sure your system contains Node.js. Okay, if you don't have Node.js, just go to Node.js downloads. Okay, so this is the Node.js website for downloads. Okay, and you can download the latest LTS one. Okay, because npm command only runs when we have Node is running in our local machine. Okay, so now copy this command and open a terminal. Okay, so in this folder, I want to create my project, Vue project. Okay, paste that command and install it. So while installing, the npm will need few inputs from us. Okay, first thing is project name. I will name it like Vue3 CRUD. Okay, next it is asking for us to use TypeScript. I will say no, I want to use JavaScript only. It is asking to add JSX, no need. It is asking to add router, say yes, we use Vue routing. And it is asking state management, no. And unit testing, no. And finally end-to-end testing, no. And no. Okay, so the project is created. If you move this command prompt little bit down, here you can see our new project got created. Okay, so let me open my project in Visual Studio Code Editor. Okay, to open it in Visual Studio Code Editor, first go to root path and enter command like code space dot and enter. It will automatically opens the project in VS Code. Okay, so here is our Vue.js application. So the first thing is, after opening the project, we have to install the packages. So to develop or to run the Vue.js application, we need to install the required packages. So for that, I can open the terminal. You go to view, here you can see the terminal. Okay. So in the terminal, just enter the command like npm install. So it's going to install all the required packages that are inside of this dependencies and dev dependencies in package.json file. Okay. So here if you see, new folder is added after running the npm install. So in this folder, all the packages are downloaded, are added in this folder. Okay. So now let's explore the existing files in the Vue.js application. The first thing, anyway, we open package.json, right? So normally package.json contains reference to the third-party packages that are needed for our application, and also it contains script, that means commands for running the application or building the application. Next, index.html. Vue.js is a single page application. So this is the only one and only HTML file in our Vue.js application. Okay. If you observe here, there is a div, right, with ID equal to app. So on runtime, Vue.js will render the content inside of this div. Okay, that everything will taken care by the Vue itself. Next file, if you go to src, you can see the main.js. So this is the entry JavaScript file for our application. This is the entry file, and here it is loading the entry component. Here entry component is nothing but app component. Okay, so app component is here. So this is the entry component of our Vue application. Okay, and it is the parent of all components in our application. Okay, so I mentioned, right, Vue application made of components, right? So it contains three elements: scripts, template, and styles. So these three combinedly makes Vue component. So script contains JS code, template contains HTML code, style contains header code. So I think we just now got familiar with how Vue component looks like. And I also mentioned this demo is on Vue 3 composition API, right? So composition is nothing. Just add a setup here. That's it. That is a composition implementation or composition way of writing the Vue code. Okay, because Vue supports two kind of APIs: optional API and composition API. Composition is the latest and recommended way of writing the code. In composition also we can write two ways. So this is one technique, adding the setup attribute at the script tag. Another technique is, instead of adding the setup attribute, it should be defined like a function, and inside of that function everything need to be written. Okay, so I will use this approach, like adding setup here. Okay, so that is app component, that is the entry component. And next here you can see the views folder, and it contains some sample components. Okay, so how to know it is a component means, any file dot view means that is the view component. Okay, here see about view dot view, home view dot view. Okay, these are components. So this folder is like pages folder, means home view is one page, about view is one page. Okay, so these pages get renders on the app view component. So where they render means, here you can see some header. This is like menu, and here there is a router view. So this router view loads from the view router package. Okay, when application is running, our page level components render at this router view. Okay, so views folder generally contains page level components, and you have one more folder like components. So these are like child components. You see here how hello world, and same hello world component is using here. Okay, so if you want to use any component in any another component, then how we have to use means, we have to import its fully qualified path. Okay, and then that component must be rendered as a custom element. Okay, see here, this is hello world component element. Okay, like this you have to use. So here it is using inside of the app view, right? So it is a child component. So all the child components will be added in the components folder. Next, assets. In general, it contains static files like logos, images, etc. Those things. Okay. Now let's run our Vue.js application. Okay. To run the Vue.js application, let me clear this. In package.json, we have a command. Okay, so this is the command dev, and it use white. It is a server. Okay, view server to run and build the application locally. Okay, so to run this dev command, you have to type like npm space run space command. Here in my case it is dev. Okay, this command I want to run. So if I enter, it will automatically runs our Vue.js application under some local port number. So here it is 5173. So if I copy this and check on browser, here is the default Vue application. Okay, so that is the introduction on our Vue.js application. Now let's set up the backend. In general, the real backend we will use like any Node.js application or .NET Web API or JavaScript API application. Okay, so here in this demo, no need of writing code for setting up the API. Here we are going to use the fake API, that is JSON server. Okay, if you search like JSON server, click on GitHub link, just follow the steps I will say. Okay, so first we have to run this command. If you observe, it is like a global command -g, that means global. So copy this command, open terminal anywhere in your application, just copy this and enter. Okay, it will install JSON server in your local machine. Second, to start the JSON server, this is the command JSON server -watch db.json. Okay, for my demo, what I will do, I am going to set up or run the JSON server from my Vue application itself. Okay, so what I will do, I will add a one more command here like JSON run, and I will add this command here. Copy this and add here. Okay, so let me open one more terminal. Now let's run this JSON run command. So to run the command, we know npm space run space JSON hyphen run. Something is missing. Okay, I didn't save the file. Save it. Okay, clear and run again. And if you see here, JSON server is up and running because here you can see port number. And here there are some endpoints. Let's try to access these endpoints first. See, here is an API, one endpoint. Another endpoint. So another endpoint. That means my JSON server is up. By default, it is giving me three different endpoints. So how this fake data is coming means by default, whenever you run this command, db.json file gets created in our application. If you search db.json, see, this is the db.json file created because of because we ran this JSON server. So JSON server uses this JSON file as a database. Okay, so it will store the static data, and this data will be written as a response to the API. And if you observe, these endpoints are made from these property names. Okay, so if you change the property name, endpoint also will change. So I don't want to use this default data. Okay, I have already prepared some default data. I'm going to add that object here. Okay, this is my sample data. And here if you see my properties wonders. So why I created like this means in this demo I want to do CRUD operation on 7 wonders. Okay, so this is my 7 wonders data. I added 2 items here. So if I save and check the logs here, you can see new endpoint is created. If I copy this and try to access, see my data is coming as a response. Okay, so this is how I have to create the or set up the fake JSON server. Okay, now let's end this video by adding a Bootstrap menu. Okay, so for that, let's go to Bootstrap website. So here is our Bootstrap website, right? So here there are CSS CDN link and JS CDN link. So first copy the CSS CDN link and open our index.html file, and just above the closing tag add CSS reference file. And now copy the JS reference file, okay, and add it just above the closing body tag. Okay, now I added the Bootstrap files here. Next, we have to do few modifications. Okay, go to assets. There is a main.cs file. I don't want this file, so remove this file. Okay, and in the main.js, there is a reference for main.css, so remove it also. Okay, so we know our app component is our entry component, right? So here I want to configure my Bootstrap menu. So let me remove these default headings and also clear the styles as well, these custom styles. Okay, so here I want to add the Bootstrap menu. So go to Bootstrap website, go for docs and go for navbar component. Okay, so let's copy one of the example. Okay, let me copy this primary color navbar. Okay, I want to add just heading for my navbar. Okay, nothing I needed. So what I will do, let me copy these 2 tags, and the div closing tag is missing. Just add the closing div tag. Okay, and here code. Okay, so let's check our application. And also let's move this router view into the container, Bootstrap container. Okay, now here you can see Bootstrap menu is added and default page is loading. Okay, in the next video, we are going to implement the read operation. Now to implement the read operation, I'm going to consume our fake JSON server. Okay, so first let's create a page level component. So we know views folder contain page level components. So inside of it, let's create folder like wonders. Okay, and now let's create a component like all wonders. The main idea is that component should display all the collection of data from my API response. Okay, so let me create new component like all wonders. Here one convention is that our component name must start with capital. Okay, let's add our three elements: script, template, style. To use composition API, add setup attribute. Okay, now in the template, let's add a simple message. Okay, I am all wonders component. Now let's configure route for this page level component. So to configure the routing, we have routes folder. In that we have a index.js. Okay, here is a default routing configuration. Now let's change it. So let me remove the second one. Okay, so this is the home path and defined like home. Okay, this is just optional. And here we have to map the specified component that we want to load for the route. Okay, so here predefined route component for home path is home view. So let me remove this home view. Okay, so what I will do, I will just change it. So let's import all wonders. Okay, which is my new component. Now map this all wonders to component. So here I specified I want to load the all wonders for home path. So let's run and check. So we know the command is npm run dev. Our view server is up. Let's copy this local URL, access in browser. Okay, here I am missing ending quote. Okay, let's add it and save. Now check. Okay, here for home path, I am able to load my new component. So let's run our JSON server as well. So we can use another terminal to run JSON server. So command is like npm run JSON. I think it is run. Is the command run. So it is also up and running. Let's access this API in another browser tab. Now we have to consume this API and render it on our UI. So to consume API in Vue.js application, we need to install one package that is Axios. Okay, so open one more terminal. So enter command like npm space I Axios. It is a third-party library for calling APIs. Okay, now I installed Axios. Okay, here we have to make a call to the API. So we can use Axios. Okay, so to use Axios, I have to import it namespace as well. Okay, so now I can use Axios library. This is a get endpoint, right? So dot get method we have to use. And here we have to pass the URL. Copy our API URL, add it here, okay? And then we have to listen for the response. So I can use then, okay? Okay, so I will get response.data. So for time being, let's log the response to console. Okay, but if you observe Axios call, I am directly implemented in the script, but we should not do like this. Any API call that needs to be triggered automatically on page load, we have to use unmounted lifecycle. Okay, unmounted. Okay, that is loading from view. So it will take arrow function as input. So I can paste this entire code inside of it. All right. Now let's check whether API is invoking and it is successful or not. Okay. Inspect element. Go to network tab and go to XHR. Reload the page and go back to network calls. Here you can see our API get endpoint invoked and I am getting data also. And that data I am successfully logged to browser console. All right. Now I have to bind that data to my UI, right? So here I am getting collection of data like 2 items. So I want to display them on Bootstrap cards. Okay. So let's go to Bootstrap website, go to docs and search for cards component. Okay. And let's go to bottom. I want this style of cards. Okay. So let me copy this HTML. Okay. Let's remove our test message and let me add a container. Okay. Inside of it, add our cards HTML. So by default, there are duplicate cards here. We required only one because based on our API payload collection count, we are going to loop the code. Dynamically, we generate the HTML. Okay. So let's remove duplicates. Okay. Now I have only single code. Now I want to loop this code based on the collection from the API. First, we have to store the API response to some variable. Okay. So I will create a variable like all wonders. And I cannot use a normal variable to assign the data because once I assign this data here, okay, on change of the data inside of this variable, my HTML should be re-render. Normal variable cannot detect the change. So our variable must be some reactive type variable. Means immediately it will act per change in data. Okay. So I can use one kind of type like ref. Okay. So now any change in this variable and this variable used in HTML, then content will be refreshed automatically. Okay. So here ref must loads from view library. Okay, import the ref. So inside of the ref, I have given empty array because I want initially this collection will be empty. From API, I am getting collection, right? So initial data I am assigned as empty here. Now what I can do, I can assign this response.data to my all wonders variable. Okay. So all wonders variable, and we cannot directly assign data for a ref variable. To assign a data for a ref variable in the script tag, we have to use dot value. Okay. So response dot data. Now hello wonders variable will contains the API response. So now I can loop it over the HTML. Okay. So in view to loop any HTML, I can use defer directive. Okay, default Vue.js directive. Okay, so now I can use my all wonders variable. Okay, so each item should be iterated, right? So I can use a normal local variable like empty, any name you can give, and in you have to apply. So this is our collection. So on every iteration, okay, the object will be assigned to item. So item will be act as a current object from the loop for every iteration. Okay. First let's test. Since I have two collections right from API response, now I must see two cards in the UI. See, I am getting two cards. Okay, because I am looping here. Now let's bind our data to those cards. Okay. So here for the image tag, I can bind my image URL property. So if you observe the API response, these are the properties: ID, name, location, image URL. I must bind them here. Okay. So here I can bind it like so. SRC now it should be a dynamic data I am binding, right? So whenever any attribute, if you want to bind dynamic data, then attribute must prefixed with colon. That means its value must be dynamic. So I can use item variable dot image URL. Okay. And title I am going to give my name property. Okay. So item dot name. And in the paragraph, I want to specify the location. Okay. So in any HTML element, if you want to render our content, we have to use double flower brackets. Okay. So inside of this double flower brackets, I can pass any dynamic expression. So here I can pass item dot location. Okay. Let's check. Okay. Our content is rendering, right? So, but these are little bit big, right? Chords. So let's try to reduce them. Okay, I think I can made these columns to MD3, means at most 3 columns. Let's check. Yeah, somewhat better now. So this is how we have to do read operation in Vue.js. Okay, so here what we have done, we created component, new component, and we added route for that component. So that component act as a page level component, and in unmounted lifecycle method, which that method gets automatically executed, right? In that method, we are calling API. Once we got the API response, we are looping it to our HTML. Okay. So in the next video, we are going to implement the create operation. See, we did read operation, right? Here there are some mistakes. Let me correct them. You see here item dot name is binding. Okay. So that is because the dynamic data I want to bind between the tags, we have to use flower brackets, right? I missed them. So let's add them. Okay. Now save, check. Okay. Now I am able to render the names. So let's get back to our main topic, create operation, right? Now let's create one more page level component inside of the wonders folder. I will name component like add wonder. Okay. So let's add three important elements, script, template, styles. So our approach is composition API approach. Let's add setup attribute on script tag. Now first, let's configure a route for add wonder component. Go to index.js in the route folder. Here, just copy this object, paste it. So I will name it like add wonder. Okay, any name you can give, and let's specify the path route. So I will specify like add hyphen wonders. Okay, and component need to be assigned. So let's import the add wonder component. Okay, and assign component. Now the thing is, we want to navigate from our all wonders component to add wonders component. So inside of the add wonders component, in upcoming steps, we will add form. So first let's work on navigation from this component to add wonders component. So for that, my thought is I am going to add a add button at the top of this collection so that user on clicking that button, he can navigate to add wonders component. So button should be added in the our all wonders component, which is our home component. Okay, let me add a row here, and here instead of button I can use default view router component, that is router link. Okay, so it will have a attribute like to. So to this to, we have to specify the route. So what is our route? Add wonders. Copy it, assign it to the to attribute. Okay. So here I can specify the link name like add, but I want to display it as a button. First, let's check how it will render. Okay. It is coming like a link here, right? And it is coming at the rightmost side. So let's add columns here, column, and I want the link should be centered. So MD4 offset MD4. Okay. So copy the router link, paste inside of this div. Now our button is, our link is centered, but I want to display it as a button. So you can add button classes directly to this router link. Okay. Now let me add some margin. So to add the margin, I can use margin top. Okay, now I got margin top, but I want at the bottom also. So let me give M. So margin. Okay, now it is better. Now if I click on add button, I have to navigate to my component. So to test it in the HTML, let's add a sample message. Okay, now click on add button. See, add wonder component is loading, and here you can see the how the route is changed on button click, on link click. If you see, there is no page reload, only components are changing. So this is the effect of view routing. There is no server side call. Okay, that is the main thing we have to understand, because it is a single page, right? So everything will be handled inside of the browser itself. Okay, so the transition of one component to another component based on the route will be handled by our view router. Now let's define a form here. Okay, so what I will do, add a container div, inside of it add form. So add title to the form. Okay, now let's add form fields like text boxes. So here, if you observe here from our binding, we have name, location, and image URL. So for our sample, I required 3 text fields in my form. Okay, so let's go to Bootstrap website, go to docs, and look for forms. Here is the form controller. Okay, from this sample example, let me copy this one text field. Okay, here let's do some changes. The input type is email, but we need text box, right? So change it to text. Okay, now let's duplicate this 2 more times. Okay, now let's do some more changes with respect to the each text box. Okay, so here for attribute, give a name like for text name. So same for attribute value assigned to the ID value. Okay, I don't want any placeholder, remove it, and change the label to name. Okay, same way, next text box, I will name it like location, assigned to ID, remove placeholder, change the label to location, and here txt image URL assigned to our ID, remove placeholder, change the label to image URL. Right? Let's check the form. Okay, we got form. Let's make our form little bit shorter and center. So for that, here let's add width to 50%. See, our form is centered now. Now here, I need a button at the bottom of the text fields. So let's add a button, okay, of type submit. Okay, btn primary and label the button like add. Okay, now we got the button as well. Okay, now we have to read the whatever data. Okay, like new wonder, whatever data user going to add must be read into our script tag. Here we have to read so that that data I can send as a payload to the create endpoint. Okay, so to read we can use V model binding. Okay, so what is V model means? On every input field we have to register the V model. So to this V model we need to bind the or map with the variables from the script. Okay, so here also we cannot use normal variables. So we have to use change detectable variables such like ref, right? We have already used this for our API response binding. Okay, same type of variable must be used here. We can use like name of type ref. Okay, here it got imported. So initial value empty, let and location ref, initial value empty, image URL ref, initial value empty. Now I can use these variables to assign to v-model. Okay, so map them. Okay, sorry, it is added to the button. It should be added to the input field. So we are enabled model binding means whatever data user enters in these text boxes can be accessed through these variables. Okay, so let's check. So on form submit, let's check. So for that, let me create a method for form submit. Okay, so I will name it like add new wonder. I'm using arrow function. Okay, here what I will do console log. Okay, whether we are able to reading the user entered data. Okay, so on form submit, this method must be executed. So here I can use @submit. Okay, so here I can assign the method submit. Okay, whenever you don't need to send the parameters to any method, then you can directly call like this. Never open brackets. If you open brackets means it will immediately execute. Okay. Now let's check and let me add here alert. Why I will tell you why I am adding alert. Okay. So let's check. Let me enter new wonder like Taj Mahal, India, and some random image. Okay. So if I click on add, here I got hi. If I okay in console, our data must be logged. Okay, but I cannot see. But if you see, the data is lost. Why we lost the data? Let's understand again. So let me enter the data again. Okay, let's click on add. And first now check the console log. Okay, so ref variables, whenever we want to use in the script, we must use dot value to read the value. Okay, so let's check again. Okay, now if I check, see, I am able to see the data. That means I am able to read the user entered form data through these variables. Now I can, using these variable, I can prepare the payload for my post request, which is the create request, right? So the reason why I added alert means if I click on OK, if you observe here, we got page reloading. See here, observe here, it will blink this circle. The page is reloading. That is why we are losing the data in the form once submit, right? So for a single page application, we never allow application to reload. Okay. So what we can do means to the submit method, we can extend event like prevent. Okay. So save it and now check again. Enter data. Okay. Add and you got alert and it is logged. If you check now, it won't blink. See, it is not blink. Means page is not reloaded. Here is the proof. We didn't lose the form data. That says page is not reloaded because here we are using prevent means it is preventing the page reload. Just it will execute this add method. Okay, that is the benefit of @submit.prevent. Okay, so now instead of this ref variable, okay, something like this form data we want to bind means one more change detectable variable is there. Okay, that is the best when we are using form. Okay, that is, so let me create the variable like new wonder. Okay, and the variable type should be reactive. Okay, this also loads from the view. Okay, so the benefit of this reactive is we can specify the object inside of it. Okay, can define these individual variables as a properties inside of this object. Okay, with initial value. Okay, and see now I can get rid of these all variables. Okay, and now I can use this variable for mapping. So new wonder dot name, new wonder dot location, new wonder dot image URL. Okay, so I can remove everything and I can simply use this variable new wonder. So for ref variables, we have to use a dot value, right? Here we don't need to call any dot value. Okay. So save it and check again. So let me enter some data. Okay. Now hi is coming and page is not reloaded. If I check console log, here you can see one big object, name, location, image URL. Okay. That is this object. Here we are logging. Okay. Creating the form, best object is to use reactive type object. Okay. So now I need to post this entire data to my API. We have fake JSON API, right? So to that API we have to post. So we know for invoking the API call, use Axios. So it is a create operation, right? We have to use method like post. If you recall, for fetching we used get. So for create we have to use post. So post also same endpoint. Okay, there is no change in the endpoint. Okay, so to know how I am able to recognize the endpoint means, if you go to the JSON server, okay, here itself it is defining how the route should be for get, for post, for put, for delete, how the route should be. Here itself it is defined. For post, nothing, normal URL only. For get and post, same URL. Okay, but the thing is, this payload must be sent as second parameter. So I can send entire new under object. Okay, then I want to listen for the change. So once the data is successfully sent to the server and the request is success, that means record is inserted, then I want to navigate back from this component to my all wonders component, because all wonders is my home component. So here we have to navigate through code, means through JavaScript code, nothing but our React code. So for that, what I can do, I will add a variable like router, and I can call a method like use router. Okay, that is going to load from the view router library. Okay, and it is a method. And here remove the reference. Okay, now I can use this router variable. Okay, dot push. So in this push, I have to specify the path. So I want to go to home path, right? Our home path is simple slash. So add it here. That's it. I think logical implementation done. Let's test. Okay, enter the data. Okay, now let's click on add button and also check this network calls as well for our reference. So click on add button and see on home page, I am able to see my new item. And if I check network calls, here first call 201 status, that means created. So if you check in depth the request, and it is a get method, sorry, post method, and status code is created. And here in the payload tab, you can see the data I am posting to the server. Okay, and this is our get request, which is on all wonders API. Okay, so here we are getting the data. So that's about create operation. So next we are going to implement update operation. Let's implement the update operation. In wonders folder, let's create new component, name it like edit wonder. Add script tag, template element, style element, and add setup attribute for script tag. That means we are implementing composition technique. Let's add sample message inside of the template. Let's configure route for this new component. So in the index.js, let's add a new object and give any name and add route like edit-wonders. In all wonders, we are displaying our collection of data like a cards, right? So at the bottom of card, I am expecting edit button for each card so that each item can be editable. So below this paragraph tag, let me add a router link for navigate to edit component. Okay. And assign two attribute with the route value. Route value is edit wonders. Label it like edit. And I want to look this link as a button. So let's add Bootstrap button style. btn primary. Okay, now let's check it. Okay, we are added edit button on each item. So if I click on any button, okay, here I forgot to change the component. Okay, so in the route, we have to map our edit component. So import the edit component. Edit wonder. So assign this to the component. Okay. Now if you check, our edit component is loading. Okay. So now we can take advantage from our add wonder component because the edit form and add form are similar. Okay, let me copy the entire template section. Okay, add it here. So we have to do some changes like heading, button label. Okay, and here submit.prevent mapped to some method, right? So here I have to map to some new method in this component. Okay, so let me define a some empty method for now. Okay, I will name it like edit wonder. Okay, for now some empty method. Okay, so assign it here. And next we are using v hyphen model binding, right? Form model binding. And here there is a variable also. So same kind of variable I have to create here as well. So let me copy this. Add it here and change the variable name. Okay, like update wonder. Okay, so now we have to replace the variable in the HTML. Okay, that is fine. And we have to import the React namespace. So just copy this import, add it over here. Okay, and let's check now. So edit form is loading. Okay, so what is the main goal of edit form? We have to display the existing data in the form, right? That means we have to get the item from the server. In JSON Server, GitHub documentation, we can see a route for item to get by its ID. Okay, like this we can call. Means item ID value is there, right? That we must pass in the URL. Okay, so to populate our edit form, we have to invoke this get by ID URL. Okay, so I can use Axios. That means form must be populated whenever the component is rendered. From that we can understand this Axios get call must be written in on-mounted method, just like all wonders. Okay, default call. Same way we have to invoke in on-mounted here. Okay, on-mounted. It needs to be imported from view. Okay, it takes arrow function as input parameter. So here I can call Axios call. So it is a get call, right? Get method I have to use. Okay. Here we have to get the item by its value. So in our edit component, how to get that ID value? So to get that ID value, what we can do means here in all one edit wonders, we are having a static route, right? So I will change this route to contain a dynamic value. Means I am going to add the item ID value in the route so that that value I can read from the URL. So to make a dynamic route, I can do like slash colon ID. So this is a placeholder. When you use something like colon before the text in the route, that is called placeholder. Okay. So that means it is a any value in the route. Okay, dynamic value. So now we have to update our route to generate as a dynamic. Since it is a normal string, I can directly assign to the two attribute. But if it is a dynamic, then the two must be prefixed with colon. If you recall, for SRC also we did same to assign a dynamic value. Okay. Now what I can do, use backticks instead of the double quotes, and let me prepare the dynamic value. So to prepare a dynamic string inside of the backticks, I can use dollar and open flower brackets. So whatever we entered, it will be the dynamic value inside of it. So on rendering, entire thing will be generated as a string only. Okay. So here item.id. Okay, from the API response, ID will come, right? So same ID I want to adding into the route. Okay. Now let's check whether the route is populating with the ID. We get back to our component. If I click on edit, see ID value 3. If I click on this item, ID value 2. That represents the edit button is navigating with the dynamic ID value in it. Okay. So now I have to read this value into my edit component. Okay. So to read that value, I can use constant route equal to use route. Okay. If you recall, in add wonder component, we used use router. Use router method is for navigating purpose. Use route is for to read the data from the URL. Okay. So let me comment this line and let's check whether I am able to get the ID value from the URL or not. Okay, what I will do, I'm going to do alert message. Okay. So I can use route dot params dot dynamic placeholder name in the route. Dynamic placeholder name in the route is ID. So copy this and add it over here. Now I am expecting ID value in the alert pop-up. Let's check. See, inside of the alert, ID value is coming. Okay, now I can use this ID value for my Axios call. Okay, so let's copy the URL or API URL, but this time route should be dynamic, right? So I can use, instead of double quotes, I can use backticks and add route slash dollar and flower brackets. So inside of that flower brackets, copy this route params.id variable. Okay. So I want to read the data. Okay. And I want to assign that response data to this update wonder properties so that my form get auto populated. Okay. Update wonder dot name and response dot data dot name, because it's going to give single object for this ID. Okay. Same way, update wonders dot location URL equal to copy it and assign location. Update wonder dot image URL. I can copy this and assign the image URL. Now our data should be populated into our form. Let's check. See, data is auto populated. If you go and edit other item, data is populating. That is because, let me show you the call. Okay. If I edit and go to network calls, here is the my get by ID URL, and this is the response, and that response is we are binding to our form. Okay. Next thing is, on submitting the form, we have to send our payload to the server. Okay. Submitting means updating form. Updating means request is HTTP put. Okay. So here for put also we have to send the ID in the URL. Okay. And remaining part in the payload. So in the edit wonder method, what I can do, I can call Axios call. Since it is a put method, right? So use put method. So it should contain dynamic value, right? So I will use same URL here. And the second parameter will be our payload. Update wonder object I can directly pass. Okay. Then once the update is successful, I want to navigate back to my home page. For that, we know we can use router, right? So constant router, use router. Okay. Use route is for reading the data from the URL. Use router is for logically navigating. Okay. So here I can router dot push. To this push, I have to assign my home path. I think I am good. Let's test the update, enter update operation. Okay. So let's go to home page and let me edit this and let me add location like Agra, India. So if I click on edit, now it should update my, sorry, the button name must be edit, not update. Okay, more meaningful. Okay, if I click on update now, I'm expecting data to be updated. Okay, let me clear the network calls, console errors. Okay, ignore them and update. See, my location Agra, India is updated. That means we have successfully implemented our update operation. Next, we are going to implement our final operation, that is delete operation. Let's add delete button for each item. Okay. So in all wonders component, here I am going to add the delete button. Here I want to use button only, not the router link, because on clicking that button, I want to display a pop-up for delete confirmation. Here I don't want to go to any another page. Here within the home page only, we want to display a confirmation box. So that is the reason I am going to use button here directly. Label it like delete. Okay. Type should be button so that it won't post. Okay. BTN. Here I want button color to be red. So I can use BTN-danger. Okay, let's check. Okay. And let me add a separator here, like a pipe symbol. Okay. So now on clicking this button, need to display pop-up. So let's add Bootstrap model pop-up. So to add the Bootstrap model pop-up HTML directly in the all wonders component, I want to maintain that pop-up in separate component so that I can use that component irrespective of the type of delete operation. Okay, if you have some another delete operation within your application, so same pop-up you can use. So it is like a child component I want to use, not a page level component. So child components, we have to add it in components folder, right? New component like confirm, delete, pop-up. Now in this component, I'm not going to write any Vue or JS code. So I simply will have a template element. Okay. So add the template element. Inside of the template element, I will just add Bootstrap HTML. Now go to Bootstrap website. Okay. Check for model. Okay. From here, let's copy one of the example. Okay. Let me copy this example. Okay, here top one is a button. This button, I don't need this button. I just want pop-up HTML. So copy this and add here. So let's do some changes here. The first thing is we are going to use this ID value for accessing the model. So give some meaningful name. Okay, delete pop-up. Okay, and here change the title. Delete confirmation. Okay, and here in the body model hyphen body, let's add a message to to delete this item. Okay, and the remaining things, here we have a button, so it will represented as a cross button on top of the model. And here there are two more buttons. These will appear at the bottom of the model. Okay, you see here you can understand cross button and two other buttons. Okay, one is close button and one is save changes. So here this save changes button is like confirm delete in my case. Okay, let's change the label. So on clicking this button means on clicking this button, I have to invoke the delete API call. That is the action of this button. Okay, and I want to display this button in red color, so change it to danger. So those are required changes. Now let's add this component into our all wonders component. Okay, so here let me import the confirm delete pop-up. Okay, and it is now a child component, and here is the import. Okay, auto imported. Okay, now on clicking this button, I have to open this pop-up, right? So for click, let's write a method. Okay, open delete pop-up. Okay, so I will use arrow function. Okay, so to access the Bootstrap through JS in documentation, go to the via JavaScript. Okay, and here there is a logic. So copy this and add here. Okay, you cannot call the Bootstrap directly because at the time of this line of code will run, HTML may not be available. So it must be called inside of the on mount. Okay, so what I will do, I am going to copy this code here. Okay, and create a let variable like this. Okay, and here we have to pass the ID of our Bootstrap model. Okay, I can remove the options. We'll take default options if you don't provide. So here what we are doing, I added a variable like my model. Okay, and to that model in the on mode using the bootstrap dot model instance, I am creating the bootstrap instance. Okay, with the help of ID value. So it's going to give the control to this variable. Okay, this model pop-up. Okay. Okay, now I can use this my model instance to show the pop-up. So I can write a logic like my model dot show. Okay, and let's register this method with my delete button click event. Okay, at the rate click and assign it. Okay, check now. So if I click on the delete, see, I am able to open the pop-up. Okay, here by default, this cross button and this close button automatically works. Only thing we have to do now is on clicking this confirm delete, we have to invoke the API call. Okay, so but this is a child component and this is a parent component. So I want to invoke the API call, means I want to listen for the click event of the child component. Okay, so first for that we can use emit. Okay, means I can create a custom event in my parent component. Okay, that event I can raise from the child component using emit method. Okay, so here on button click the pop-up, click And emit method, for the emit method, I have to write like dollar emit. Okay. So in this emit method, we have to register the custom name or custom event in my parent component, means all wonders component. So I will name it like, so it is a string. So confirm, delete, clicked. So I want to create a custom event with this name. So let's copy this name in my parent. So it must come from child, right? So on the confirm delete pop-up element only, I will register that as a my custom event. Okay. So at the rate and name of that event. And to this event, I can assign some method here. Okay. So let me create a new method here, like constant confirm delete. Okay, this is my method. So let's register this method to my custom event. So what it will do means whenever we click on this confirm delete button, this click event emits this custom event. This custom event is registered with confirm delete, right? So this method gets executed. Okay, to confirm that, let's on clicking this confirm delete, let's close the pop-up. So to close the pop-up, I can use this my model instance. Instead of show, we have to write like hide. Okay. So let's check whether our custom event emitter working or not. Okay, if I click on confirm delete, see, it is successfully closing. That means child component click event is received to the parent component. Okay, here I have to write my logic for invoking the API call, delete API call. So Axios provides a method like delete, okay, for delete call. So if you go to GitHub link and you can see ID must be passed in the URL. Okay, item ID need to be passed in the URL. So that means URL must be dynamic, just like our edit. So let's copy this URL and add it here. But here we don't use router params. Okay. Somehow we should manage to get the item ID to delete. Okay. So for that, what I will do, I will create one more new variable. Okay. Item ID to delete. I will name it like this. And I will use ref variable and initial value I am going to give 0. Okay. So what I will do means on opening the pop-up, I want to assign the item to this item to delete variable. Okay. So dot value and this pop-up must get the input value. Okay, like ID, item ID to delete ID value. So that value I'm going to assign to this variable so that it will maintain the state of the item we want to delete. So I can prepare the dynamic URL using that variable. Okay. So item to delete dot value. Okay. So on successfully deleting. Okay. So here we have to implement some logic. Okay. First, let's delete one item and check. So this pop-up now contains parameter, right? Whenever we have a parameter, we should pass here, right? So I will change it like, okay, item dot id. Okay, now let's check. Reload the page. Okay, go to network calls. Okay, and click on delete. And here I want to do one more change, like on success, I want to hide the pop-up. So add this line of code into the promise. Success, on success, we are hiding the model. Okay, reload again. Okay, now click on this delete method. Okay, and clear the network calls and click on confirm delete. Okay, if I check network call, the call is successful, but here it is displaying. So if I reload the page, see that item is gone now. Means at the server it is successfully deleted. At UI it is not deleting because on UI the data is inside of this all wonders variable. So this variable also we have to remove the item we deleted. So we have to filter that I deleted item from this variable also. Okay. So let me copy that variable. So all wonders, it is also ref variable, right? So value. So all wonders dot value dot filter. Okay. ID not equal to item to delete dot value. Okay. Here what I am doing means this collection I am looping using the filter. So this underscore means this is local variable. For each iteration, that object will be assigned to this underscore. So object.id, I am filtering except this matched ID object written remaining all the collection. So again that collection I am assigning to this value so that the matched item will be excluded from the collection. Okay, let's test again. Okay, click on delete and click on confirm delete. See, now from the UI also immediately it is removed. Okay, so that's all about the delete operation as well. Okay, with this we have completely done with Vue.js 3 CRUD sample. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope this video delivered some useful content to you all. If you like the video, please do support me by subscribing to my channel, and please don't forget to like and share the video. Soon we are going to meet with new content. Until then, signing off.